Hey guys, I'm Austin Smith and welcome to Wanderlust. Right now I'm standing in front of Sentinel Peak here in Tucson, Arizona, a geographic landmark that has had an influence on this city since its earliest settlement. Now most of you from Tucson probably know Sentinel Peak as A Mountain because of the giant A that the University of Arizona placed on there in the early 20th century. To begin with, I'm going to talk a little bit about the peak's history before that A was there.
Tucson, the second largest city in the state of Arizona, lies in the Santa Cruz River Valley of the Sonoran Desert. The city is surrounded by mountains. The Santa Catalina Mountains to the north are the largest. The Rincon Mountains lie to the east of the city, and the Santa Rita Mountains to the south. To the west are the Tucson Mountains, the smallest of the ranges. Once an ancient volcanic field, the Tucson Mountains now consist of land rich with saguaro cactus and other plant and animal species unique to the Sonoran Desert. Running along the east side of the Tucson Mountains is the Santa Cruz River. Once filled with water, the river now lies dry most of the year due to humanity's extraction of the precious liquid from the valley's water table over the past 2 centuries. Sentinel Peak is found on the eastern edge of the Tucson Mountains, beside the now dry banks of the Santa Cruz River. On the other side of the river lies Tucson's downtown city center. Now lined with busy streets and skyscrapers, the downtown blocks of the city have been continuously inhabited for over 1,000 years. An underground ridge of rock along the Santa Cruz River near Sentinel Peak once forced water to the surface, creating a wide floodplain with rich soil. In centuries past, the area was lush with greenery. The Hohokam Native Americans settled around Sentinel Peak almost 2,000 years ago and farmed the land, growing beans and corn. Later, the O'odham created a settlement at the base of the peak called Sucsan, a word that roughly translates to the spring at the foot of a black mountain. The black mountain referred to in the name is Sentinel Peak, which is made up of a large amount of black basalt rock, evidence of its past as a part of an ancient volcanic field. When the Spanish arrived in the late 17th and early 18th centuries, the O'odham were given the name Pima, and the O'odham settlement called Sucsan eventually became the modern pronunciation of Tucson. The O'odham and the Spanish developed a peaceful relationship. In 1775, the Spanish established a presidio or military fort at Tucson, from which the modern city would eventually grow from. The presidio was established as a frontier post to protect New Spain and the O'odham from hostile Apache Native Americans that had several villages in the Santa Catalina Mountains to the north. The black peak beside the presidio that gave Tucson its name was soon used as a lookout post by the Spanish. A sentinel would keep watch from the peak to warn of any approaching Apache attack from the north, giving the mountain its name, Sentinel Peak. After Mexican independence in 1821, Tucson and Sentinel Peak became part of Mexico. During the Mexican-American War of 1846-48, American soldiers marched past Sentinel Peak as they made their way further south. Much of Arizona was transferred from Mexican to American sovereignty with the treaty that ended the war in 1848, the international border being placed at the Gila River and Tucson remaining a part of Mexico. Between 1850 and 1853, the United States commissioned a number of men to survey the new boundary between the United States and Mexico. John Russell Bartlett, a member of the survey team, passed through Tucson, Sonora at this time. On July 18, 1852, Bartlett climbed Sentinel Peak and made this sketch of the small Mexican town. This is the earliest known image of Tucson known to still exist. In the sketch, the Santa Catalinas can be seen in the north, while massive saguaro cactus stud the side of Sentinel Peak. Lush fields and cattle grazing are noted at the base of the peak, where water was still abundant at that time. The small settlement of Tucson is seen just beyond that. Soon after his climb up Sentinel Peak, Bartlett created this more refined version of his sketch of Tucson. 2 other members of his team can be seen sitting beside the cactus under the shade of an umbrella. Just 1 year after Bartlett and his team defined the new international boundary, the border changed once again. The United States purchased a piece of land from Mexico in what is known as the Gadsden Purchase in 1853. This land included what is now southern Arizona. It was at this time that Tucson became part of the United States. In the early 1860s, while the country was in the midst of civil war, Tucson became the westernmost settlement of the Confederacy. Sentinel Peak once again served as a lookout post as Confederate soldiers used it to keep watch of any approaching Union soldiers from California. During the late 19th century, Tucson began to grow larger, and the University of Arizona was founded in 1885. This 1889 image of the university's original building, now known as Old Main, shows Sentinel Peak to the west. After an Arizona football victory over Pomona College in November 1914, Albert Condron, a member of the football team and a civil engineering student, suggested to one of his professors that an A be constructed on the side of Sentinel Peak. Over the course of the next year, students cleared a portion of land at the top of the peak of cactus and other plants. Trenches were dug in the outline of the letter A, and rock was hauled to the site by horses to create the giant monument. The A, which measures 70 feet wide and 160 feet tall, was finally whitewashed on March 4, 1916, and soon became an iconic landmark of the city and the university. Sentinel Peak was thereafter referred to as A Mountain, and the nickname grew in popularity. During the early 20th century, Sentinel Peak was used as a quarry for its black basalt rock. A large crater-like impression on the north side of the peak is what remains of this quarry today. Many of the basalt rock taken from this location was used as foundation for many of the old homes in West Side neighborhoods. Basalt rock was also commonly used for walls around properties that can still be seen today, the most notable being the basalt rock wall that surrounds the west side of the University of Arizona's campus. The old turtle pond near Park Avenue also utilizes the same basalt rock. In the late 1920s, businessmen wanted to quarry the entirety of Sentinel Peak. Tucson citizens had come to use the site as a residential park, and the gigantic A had become a beloved symbol, however, and public protest helped to save A Mountain from its near destruction. The painting of A Mountain has become a tradition for the University of Arizona, and every year freshmen go up the peak to give a fresh coat of paint to the A. Although it has almost always been white, the A has also been painted other colors at times. Starting in the 1990s, the A has sometimes been painted green for St. Patrick's Day. After the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001, the A was painted red, white, and blue in an act of patriotism, also doubling as the university's colors. The red, white, and blue pattern has been repeated several times since. In 2003, after the United States invasion of Iraq, the A was painted black by a group called People Against Imperialism to protest the war. The A was returned to its normal colors soon thereafter, and the mayor of Tucson stated he no longer wanted the letter to be used as a canvas for political statements. The University of Arizona's rival, Arizona State University in Tempe, has an A Mountain of their own on Tempe Butte near the school's football stadium. As part of the rivalry during the week of the UA-ASU football game every fall, fans and students try to paint the A of the opposing school with their own colors. Today, Sentinel Peak is maintained as a public park. A road travels to the top where visitors can exit their vehicles at the large A and gaze out over the city of Tucson. A historical marker describes the story of the peak, while another marker, placed by the Daughters of the American Revolution, highlights the peak's Spanish colonial past as a lookout against Apache attacks. A small gazebo used for gatherings and occasional weddings is located on the west side of the mountain, while picnic tables and a grill are nearby. Short hiking trails allow visitors to climb to the top of the peak above the A and the roadway below. Every July 4th, fireworks are fired from the mountain in a celebration of American Independence Day. Sentinel Peak has been an important icon of Tucson for over 1,000 years, providing the city its name when Native Americans first settled at its base. The peak remains a popular location to gaze upon the city at sunset. Cultural references to the mountain abound, and a new nano brewery called Sentinel Peak Brewing Company is scheduled to open in late 2013 near Grant and Swan Roads, producing beers with locally inspired names like Monsoon Dunkel, Heatwave Hefeweizen, and Desert Blonde. My recent trip to Sentinel Peak came during the monsoon season here in the Sonoran Desert, and the mountain became a vista from which to watch the rain and lightning play out across the valley. If you're interested in visiting Sentinel Peak, the park is open between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday and 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Sunday. To get there from downtown Tucson, just take Congress Street west past Interstate 10. After about a mile, turn left onto Cuesta Avenue, which soon turns into Sentinel Peak Road, taking you to the top of the mountain, the gigantic A, and a stunning view of Tucson. If you enjoyed this episode of Wanderlust, be sure to let me know by liking the video or leaving a comment below. Also, consider subscribing to my YouTube channel and checking out some of my other series, such as Focus on Species, where I investigate the many astounding animals that inhabit our natural world. If you'd like to watch the full drive to the top of Sentinel Peak and back to the bottom, click on my extra video here. Thanks for watching.